tried dat. It's You Tried Dat. Come and hear about the things we ate. Munching all the snacks and rating them from love to hate. Why then are they watching old dead shows? Making all the podcast apps go close. When you hear You Tried Dat. Oh, and normally we eat food. So you can conclude that this app will suck. You tried it. Yabba dabba doo, and happy Valentine's Day. Nick Novak with your pals, Chad Hancock.
Yabba dabba doo.
Nick Geiger.
Yabba dabba doo.
And it's Valentine's Day, of course, which means we're watching the Flintstones. What else?
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
Everyone does with their loved one on Valentine's Day.
Usually, this is the snacking podcast, so if you're looking for snack reviews, not necessarily in the wrong place, but this is for the first time ever, we're going to be doing a review of something we watched, and we'll get to that soon. But
Wow.
first, of course, yep.
Big news.
We are?
You just dumped that news in our laps.
Just so it does not seem confusing as we go, we're setting up with a new program here, and while we were getting set up, spent 10 straight minutes talking about Fred Flintstone's dumper. So if there's any mention of the dumper, then it's only because there was extensive conversation about it before we started.
Mm-hmm.
What Novak's trying to say is if you don't like dumper jokes, turn off the podcast right about now. Here they come.
So we're watching the Flintstones, which I did see some as a kid, but we're also thinking about what cartoons we watched regularly when we were children. Chad, what do you remember watching when you were a young boy?
Yeah, that was the striking thing to me when I was watching this Flintstones. I don't think I ever actually watched Flintstones as a kid, or sort of like very sparingly. I don't know. I think these like Hanna-Barbera ones just all, they kind of escape me, except for maybe the occasional Yogi Bear. I watched a lot of the G.I. Joe cartoon, like a lot of it. And the Transformers cartoon was a big hit in the household as well. But as far as like these kinds of like these sitcom-y ones, like I watched like Looney Tunes, right? Like you got to watch like Bugs Bunny and stuff. That's way more entertaining than like something like Flintstones or Jetsons.
Geiger, what'd you watch?
I'm with Chad on the Looney Tunes. We watched a bunch of that. One I had forgotten about, but I actually was reminded about tonight, actually, because my kids we were trying to figure out a movie to watch, and we went on Disney Plus. And Jake settled on the live-action Matthew Broderick Inspector Gadget movie.
Oh, yeah.
Which is horrible. I was like, what the fuck? It was real bad. But Inspector Gadget, the cartoon, is one I watched a lot as a kid. I remember thinking it was hilarious. And I was a huge fan of He-Man. I loved He-Man as a kid. Like, got into and that's another one when you look back and you're like, because my sister actually, as a joke for my birthday or something, got me DVDs of the He-Man cartoon. Like, I was like 26 when she gave them to me or whatever. So I watched it and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, they're really bad now. Like, going back, obviously, but there's just like a lot of the scenes are the same cell just flipped. It's like the same cell of He-Man talking to someone and like,
and He-Man will like toss his sword back and forth like 50 times in a row while he's talking.
Yeah, and Battle Cat had a huge dumper. I remember.
Right.
Wow, look at that thing. How about you?
I watched He-Man was going to be one of my answers. I watched a lot of He-Man. That's one I remember well, and I actually watched a lot of Voltron too, which was like basically what Power Rangers was like ripped off of, basically.
Sure.
But in cartoon form. And then for whatever reason, it must have been on in the morning before I went to school or something, but I watched a lot of some Smurfs rip-off called the Snorks.
I know
if you guys ever saw that.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's
they're like like little
The
like fish things
snorks?
with big like things sticking off their heads or something, right?
Yeah, they're like the Smurfs underwater, more or less.
Oh,
But for whatever reason, so Chad had never heard of it. Yeah, I didn't know if it
yeah.
was popular or not, but I do remember watching the Snorks. Do you guys ever? And then I watched a number of other things that were like cartoon adjacent, like Fraggle Rock.
Oh,
Oh, I
I
love
loved
Fraggle
Fraggle
Rock.
Rock as a kid. Yeah, that's one I wonder if it holds up because that one was interesting because I was always most interested in the storyline of like the one guy that's like out adventuring on his own, like
Mhm.
out in the real world. But now if I go back and watch that, I'm like, I wonder if that part was actually pretty boring.
Yo, so on. You watched Fraggle Rock and was like, "Oh, that human that we never see. I wonder what he's up to." Not the mythical world of the Fraggles or anything.
Yeah. Don't care about the fantasy world.
I hope
I want
that
to.
an accountant. What's his day
Do you
like?
have a job and a girlfriend or something?
Yeah, that one Fraggle that went off exploring. I want to watch him pay his taxes and like grow to hate his family over time. And
I thought you meant the human that was like living in the house of the wall that they all lived in. Remember, there was like in the beginning of the Fraggles, there was like a human with a
Yeah.
dog. I thought that's who you meant, not the adventurer Fraggle. That makes sense. I'm with you now.
well, I also want to watch the human pay his taxes. I mean, look, I just want to see taxes get paid. All right, I believe in a functioning society.
I know we made fun of it on this show, but I did really like Alf as a kid. Like I
loved
thought
Alf.
Alf is hilarious.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of this other like a live action show called Spectre Man? I used to watch Spectre Man a lot as a kid, and it basically was like a Japanese show that was like Godzilla-esque, to where like once an episode, Spectre Man would grow gigantic, like a guy would get in the costume and grow gigantic, and he would have fights against monsters, but it was clearly just like two humans in a costume on a set. And like the guy who's Spectre Man in like a big like robot looking costume would like grab the dinosaur by the tail and like swing him around the set, like smashing into paper mache mountains and stuff.
It's just like a Power Rangers type deal, kind of.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I never really saw Power Rangers to know, I guess, what happens, but it was
very similar in
like
Power Rangers, where once they like form the big thing, like it always ends with two guys in costumes like smashing into foam skyscrapers and stuff. Every episode ends that way.
Did you guys ever watch Today's Special?
No, what's that?
It was this show where like it was like set in a
It's like
department
a
store.
news broadcast.
You guys ever watch this show 60 Minutes? This cartoon?
Oh, when I was a kid, I used to love this one cartoon. His name was Andy Rooney, and he would no. It was a department store, and then when they closed the shop for the night, they would put this hat on one of the mannequins, and the mannequin would become a person, and they did shit. I don't know, but I always we watched
Paid
that.
his taxes.
He went and paid his taxes. He quickly asked him to take the hat off as he realized the real world just sucked, but was like a soul crushing endeavor.
The whole night, the mannequin's just rubbing his bare dumper all over all the products in the store. That's the whole
He was
episode.
clothed. Hold on, I watched this as a kid. It wasn't like a naked man walking around thrusting his genitals in the screen.
Well, I'm glad they remembered to put clothes on him.
Yeah, no, his dumper was closed.
That was Today's Special, was the name of his ass.
Today's Special, and so are
Today's
you.
Special, whatever product he rubbed his ass on that night would be on sale the next day. So today we're going to be talking about the Flintstones, and a special one because it's Valentine's Day. What's the actual name of this thing? Love Letters. What is it called?
Love Letters on the Rocks.
Love Letters on the Rocks. Okay, so it's the Flintstones Valentine special. For some background, one thing when looking it up that was surprising was that the Flintstones only had 6 seasons. It was only on the air from 1960 to 1966, which is crazy because it was constantly being played even when we were kids.
Yeah,
like right. I know I've seen a bunch of episodes because it was on all the time, but I didn't think I thought it had a much longer run than that.
Does that compare to the Jetsons, I wonder? Like, because I feel like both of those shows were kind of on it feels like for a long time.
Right.
Even though I didn't watch most of them.
And Flintstones also is just a total, like, straight ripoff of the Honeymooners.
Right.
which was the like popular sitcom from even before that, where Fred's just like the loudmouth guy and Barney's his like friendly, goofy neighbor.
Yeah, that was something that kind of surprised me, like, you know, because I actually didn't know. I've never really seen Honeymooners, so I didn't kind of know that is based off of. But like, I was just continually surprised in this special of just how fucking dumb everyone is. Like, everyone is a fucking dipshit, and like. That really shocked me. Actually, I was like, "There's nobody here that's like halfway smart."
Let's start with the thing that's most noticeable, and this is that this is supposed to be a cartoon, right?
Yeah.
So is this fucking thing for kids? Because
Right.
it is the story of infidelity, which
Yeah.
all kids love.
That was my chief note that I underlined. Is I wrote, "Who is this for?" Because it's not funny or like an adult is going to be like, "This is dumb." But
Right.
all of the jokes, I don't know that a kid would even get half of what they're talking about.
Right. Right. Yeah, and then like I don't know, maybe they're just trying to recreate like that, you know, back in those days, like the kids would feel they would connect to it, right? Because they would be like, "Oh, this is actually what mommy does when daddy's away," you know, like their kids are the kids'
Right.
parents are actually like that.
Yeah.
So maybe this is trying to be relatable.
And it starts right off in the beginning because Fred goes into we see Fred in a bar. This is the first shot, and like not often are cartoon characters in bars, but Fred's in a bar looking pretty sad and looking for a private eye named Harry Guide.
Now, I wrote the very first opening shot. He's standing outside of the bar, which for some reason the address is 6th and 7/8. Did you guys see that? I didn't understand why that was necessary. But he's just standing there, and I wrote opening shot : is Fred a putz? Because like I don't know anything about him, but he's just standing there looking like the saddest man ever, right? Like just like a pathetic human being.
Well, even the first real punchline of the show is that bar scene that then gets replayed later when this detective who's supposed to be the coolest guy on earth and walks in the most fucking ridiculously contrived weird way possible walks up to the bar and orders rocks on the rocks, which is like a play on them being in cavemen, but two things, like, so they drink stones and then two,
I think
like
they still drink liquid, right?
right, and two, a kid would not know what the fuck that means. A kid does not know that a drink on the rocks means on ice. Like, they're, unless all these kids are drinking martinis and shit, which I doubt.
Look, you gotta look when you're writing comedy and you're trying to cross, you know, appeal to lots of people. You gotta have one for the kids, 6 and 7/8, and one for the adults, rocks on the rocks, right? So it's, you know, it's a give and take. Both hilarious there. Now, is that PI? Is he supposed to be like a parody of some famous PI? Like, because I was like, why does he walk like that? And then also, did you guys know like he has like he doesn't quite have a butt chin, but he had like a big check mark on his chin.
He has about a 7-foot head. He's got the biggest head in the face of the earth, and he speaks with like
It's more like 6 and 7/8.
It seems like he has an accent too. He's like talking really weird. I don't know what
it does, because I know there are Flintstones episodes where there are characters like based on stars from the time, like Hollywood stars.
Right.
I'm trying to think of some of them, but I can't. But so I also thought, I'm like, is this based off of a famous person or like a
movie character or something?
Right. But none I could think of. So yeah, he walks all fucked up, the detective, and so that scene's gonna be later in the show. So it's like,
why did we have to watch that scene twice? Yeah, it was so annoying. It's like they're gonna replay this whole scene again a second time.
Then we get the opener, and it's not the Flintstones Meet the Flintstones we're so used to. It's just like a standard, like old timey tune with Fred driving through the town, picking up his suit from the tailor, getting a newspaper, and then turning on the TV. So I kind of missed the opening theme.
And he ate like I wrote Fred eats a lot of pancakes. Yeah, like a stack of like 20 pancakes tall or something. So good for him.
I also was confused in that opening shot. So it's another one of those things like with Disney where like Goofy is a dog, but Pluto is a pet dog. Like it makes no sense. Where like here, he's got a pet dinosaur, but there's also dinosaurs whose apparently entire function is to like stand there and be stairs the entire day. Like, so what does that dinosaur like never eat or shit or move? It's just like that's horribly horrific. That's like a huge PETA violation. Like why the fuck? Like
There's
just
definitely
climb
an
up the
episode
fucking
where there's
bed?
just Fred complaining about all the dinosaur shit that's all over their town and how they're gonna solve that problem.
It's like, Wilma, my stairs took another shit again.
Well, I don't know anything about dinosaurs, but I know I'd probably be pretty fucking afraid of them to the point where I wouldn't just walk up their back to go to the, I don't know, fucking library or whatever he was doing.
There's the part where Fred and Barney are driving home, and he's like, "Hey, Bon, when are they gonna clean up all the dino shit in this town?"
I'll tell you when this neighborhood went down, when we started letting those dinos in, taking our jobs.
Too many dino dumpers around here. Just unloading.
All right, so it starts. We got Betty and Wilma, who are way too good looking for these guys.
Now, honestly, who would you do between the two?
Probably Betty.
I'm a brunette man myself. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Prefer
She
brunette
looks
to
like
redhead person.
she's also kind of like seems she'd be more DTF.
She she has eyeballs.
Yeah.
She has eyes and a discernible waist, which is nice. I like that in a woman.
She sees Wilma skating around and finds out that she's found some old skates digging through stuff. She shows Betty a picture of her and Fred, and the picture is fucked because it's just like her standing next to Fred in catcher's gear, and there's like no background or anything.
Yeah.
Then there's Fred. Fred has written a poem on this from a long time ago that reads, "I love thee, Wilma, with hair like silk, lips like cherries, skin like milk, your shell like ears, your dainty hands, your eyes so black like frying pans."
Wow.
Yeah.
They get a lot of run out of the frying pan crack. Like
yeah. I wrote that down. Like, do they think this frying pan line is funny? And also, this is where I realized that all these people are stupid. I guess intentionally so, because when she's looking at that picture, she like points out to Betty which one she is. You know, she's like, "That one's me," and like points to herself. It's just her and Fred on the picture. No
What
shit.
what milk are these guys drinking? Are they milking a saber-toothed tiger or something? Where are they getting milk?
Yes,
they're fucking prehistoric. Brontosaurus
dino
milk?
shit.
While the fucking thing is sitting there being stairs for someone, they're getting milk too.
You're really concerned about the lives of these dinosaurs.
It's a lonely existence. It sounds like.
Cool.
Did you notice their cuckoo clock?
Okay, I wrote that down. I wrote the alarm clock is fucked. It's like total spousal abuse, right? Like clock strikes 3 and the caveman comes out and smashes the cave woman over the head with a club 3 times.
But isn't that like how that's like the joke about how cavemen courted, right? The man would hit the woman over the head and drag her into a cave.
This is a kid's show.
Okay. In the 1960s, that's how they courted. That's what I mean. Isn't that?
All right. So it's Fred's birthday, and Wilma's getting him a watch as a secret. That's key. How old is Fred, do you think?
Seems like he could be like 45. He's got like a 5 o'clock shadow. He's fat. He sounds like
Big
this
giant
like
dumper.
He's got a big ass dumper. Sounds like he's got like from the Bronx somehow. He's got this weird New York accent.
But they met. They're about the same age, right? And they have a kid who's like a baby, so probably still like mid-30s.
They have a kid?
Not in this one, but they do generally have Pebbles.
Oh, Bam Bam, right? Yeah.
Bam Bam's Barney's kid.
Yeah.
Pebbles is their kid.
Pebbles, okay.
All right, Fred and Barney are coming home from work. All right, here's the thing with Fred and Barney. Fred's a fucking dick, right? He's like generally a dick, and he always is in every episode. But Barney's kind of a piece of shit too. Like he is nicer, generally nicer person, but he does a bunch of dick stuff like that. You don't like that. First, I'm like, I just remember Fred being an ass, but now I'm like, I would be pretty pissed at Barney for that too. Like, namely, here's the first thing is that Fred just wants to go home, sit on his birthday. Fred's birthday wish is to sit on the couch and watch TV. Fine.
Right.
I can respect that if that's what you want, Fred.
Sure.
But Barney says he's going to take his normal shortcut through Fred's kitchen and take a bunch of shit out of his fridge.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, it was weird too that I like the whole way home, no matter what Barney did, it seemed like Fred was just like threatening to beat the shit out of him all the time. There was some line I just wrote down: Fred constantly threatening Barney and then assaults him. Like he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go take. If you do that, I'll fucking kick the." I mean, he didn't say kick the shit out of him. He was like,
I'll fucking kick what?
"Give me that, I'll fucking kill you, Barney. This is a kid's show."
I'm gonna reenact my alarm clock on you.
You're gonna wake up in a pile of that dino shit, Barney.
I will say I thought one of the maybe the only clever part of the show is when they showed the watch that she was getting Fred, and it was just a sundial. That was sort of I chuckled once. I was like, all right, that's clever-ish. But yeah, Barney then follows up when they get home. Doesn't he, like, when they're talking about? Maybe it was after they were talking about how we'll get to it, but Fred thinks that she's cheating on him. Barney makes some comment about how good looking she is, and he's like,
"Yeah, we'll get there."
Like, okay, I'm like,
right? Yeah,
Barney.
I had first of all, I was floored that Barney has basically no eyes. Right? He just has eye outlines.
Yeah,
and then his eyes are skin colored. But then they get home, and I didn't understand this line. When they get there, Fred says something about the neighbor kids asking Wilma for handouts. Did you guys hear that line?
Yeah.
What does that mean? I don't
like food or money, I guess, or something.
do they live on the wrong side of the tracks? Is
they probably do. He's definitely supposed to be a blue collar guy.
Because it did seem, though, like he had a mansion. Because then they were, roller skating, and they just, skate for, hours and don't hit the other side of the mansion.
I don't think they had a... If you saw, the beginning or the end credits, it looks like a pretty small domicile. A little cave. But...
Right, so let's get to the skating, because that's what a second. So Fred sees the skates there, right, and he's pissed off. He's like, who left these skates out? But then he decides he's going to try to skate. He's really shitty at first. He can barely stand. And then, with every passing 3 seconds, he gets slightly better to where he is flying around. And like Jed says, there's one part where he says 3 sentences while flying 100 miles an hour straight through the house. And he just keeps going.
It's like the runway scene from Fast and Furious 6 where the runway just never ends. It's his house just keeps going forever. I did write that I did think he looked pretty funny skating. That looked kind of fun.
There's not much in there apparently because he's going so far. Then he just slams abdomen first into the one table in the middle of the room. So
I also want to know, is Fred fucking huge? He's so much bigger. Barney comes up to his tits. He's I don't know if Barney is just short and Fred is normal size, or Fred fucking Shaquille O'Neal of the prehistoric era.
7'3".
I want to say Fred's face is as tall as 3/4 of Barney's body. He's just enormous. I was like, fucking oaf is wearing roller skates.
So after he crashes, Barney wants to try the skates, and of course Fred tells him to fuck off.
That's the moment I realized Fred was a piece of shit. Just let your friend try the fucking skates, asshole.
But maybe we see why soon. So Fred finds the poem that Wilma had seen earlier, but he doesn't recognize his own writing or understand that he wrote it.
Furthering Chad's theory of these people are subhuman levels of dumb. He wrote the fucking thing. Not only wrote it, but back then they had to fucking chisel them, right? They're in stone.
Yeah.
That fucking took forever.
I don't know how you forget such a classic line as eyes as black as frying pans.
Right.
I mean, if you wrote gold like that, you'd never forget.
He thinks another guy did it, and he thinks not only that, but Wilma must be out with that guy right now. So he starts he's getting pissed thinking about the guy, so he starts punching Barney, kicking Barney's ass, pretending he's the guy. But then after like a couple punches, he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Barn." But then, so then you're just feeling sad for Barney until this, when Barney says, "Hey, it's no surprise. Wilma is very attractive."
Yeah.
And Fred's like, "What the fuck?" And he says, and Barney's line is, "I'm just married, not dead."
And that's where I wrote down, like, what kid gets these jokes? Like, oh man, Barney's got a big boner for Fred's wife.
Yeah. All I wrote is Barney goes from 6 to midnight for Wilma, 3 exclamation marks.
Also, fucking sawed off midget Barney should be happy with Betty. She's just as attractive.
Yeah.
Barney's just peeking in the window, just fucking jerking it every night to Wilma showering.
Maybe Wilma like gives up her dumper once in a while. Maybe that's like there's something else.
Yeah, it's probably. She's tired of living with a monster of a man.
Yeah.
7'3".
Or maybe he rightfully feels Wilma deserves better since his quote unquote best friend won't let him roller skate and beats the fuck out of him. Maybe he gets mad about traffic or another man.
All right, the rest of the poem is, and when you're in my when in my arms, and when you in my arms are in, my love, how can you doubt? I quiver just like gelatin, and sometimes even break out. What the fuck does that mean? What does that mean?
Break out in like hives?
I guess.
Yeah. Prehistoric hives.
Does in the prehistoric times breakout mean get hard?
What does gelatin mean in prehistoric times? They had jello back then?
They find Barney's poem. It's like, I am jealous of your life. I really want to fuck your wife.
Your wife I will let be if you promise to stop hitting me.
So Fred yells and tells Barney to get out, which doesn't seem so bad anymore. We just told him how hot his wife was. All right. Wilma comes home and Fred is stewing on the couch, and says, "Why are you sitting in the dark?" And he says, "Some people spend their whole married life in the dark," which is, like we keep saying, way above any kid's head.
Right.
It's like, no one's gonna get that. Most adults won't even fucking get that. Wilma's cooking a giant cactus in a pan. So this is where it gets really bad. This is where Wilma seems really dumb. So she has no idea of where she's going to tell Fred she was, because she says she's at a movie. She's fumbling through her excuse. Fred says, "What movie?" She doesn't know because she came in the middle. And so Fred says, "Well, then why are you home so late?" It was a double feature. Fred, this is my favorite line of the whole show. Fred said, she said she didn't know the name of that one either. And he said, "How can you come in the middle of both pictures?"
So during this, I noticed it. Maybe did you guys notice this? While that whole sequence, while he's talking, he was blinking like every third word. Like all I could notice is just Fred constantly blinking. I wrote, "Is Fred on drugs?"
Fred is epileptic.
He's on human growth hormone.
Also, speaking of HGH, I think it was here too when she was preparing dinner. Maybe it was when she was making the dog's food. She pulls out like a chicken leg that is bigger than Barney and Fred combined. And I'm like, the fuck is she storing this shit? Like, does she have like is the back half of her mansion just a giant ice box? Like, there's no way.
And then somewhere in this exchange, he threatens to murder her. Did you guys catch it?
No,
he says, like,
what did he say?
What? Are you?
I don't remember the exact quote, but at the very end, he says that, like, so he insinuates that he's gonna like kill her over this or something. I gotta look up the exact line.
Oh wait, I have it in quotes here. "I will fucking kill you."
Yeah.
So Fred, he's got to get to the bottom of this. He goes to the rebel's house. He just whips the fucking door open, just slams it straight open off the hinges. And Betty's there. He's got to talk to Betty. But the phone rings. Betty's hands are taken up, and she says to answer the phone. And it's Wilma saying, "Betty, you got to back up my story. Tell Fred I was at the movies."
Tell Fred I watched half of a double feature. What? Okay. Sounds dumb.
So Fred, instead of just hanging up, Fred decides to imitate Betty. The worst fucking.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. She's like, "Do you got a cold, Betty? Even though I just saw you 10 minutes ago."
Also, just a
No,
general
I'm just
comment.
on drugs.
General comment that I forgot to mention too. What threw me about this as well is that this show has a laugh track like a standard old sitcom.
Yeah.
It's really
but
weird.
surprisingly few laughs. Like the laugh track was very muted. You know what I mean? Like it'd be like an occasional chuckle.
You have to give it to Laugh Track guy. He's just like, I'm calling it like it is, guys.
Yeah. That one part they were booing. Yeah, that joke's back. Barney is dumb. But like, yeah, no, it does appear that every time Barney says anything, the laugh track goes like the crowd thinks Barney is fucking hysterical. Every dumb fucking thing he says. Or when he gets shit kicked in by Fred.
Fred heads back home, and Wilma's getting a call from the jeweler. And she says, "I shouldn't have called because my husband could have answered." And then she repeats the inscription, "Darling, you're the only man I'll ever love." So Fred's overhearing all this, thinking she's on the phone with her lover. And then she says, "Thanks for helping me. I know you have so many others waiting. So thanks for squeezing me in." Fred's still fucking fooled by this line, even though it makes no sense at all.
Yeah, wouldn't she be the one squeezing the lover in?
Right. Well, then she
to
says,
her thighs.
Then he says, "My wife has fallen for a playboy."
It's a very delicate way on a kid's cartoon of saying my wife is a whore.
Right.
You could squeeze me in with all your other men.
All right. So Fred and Barney in a car. Barney's like, "This can't be true. Wilma would never do something like this. Not a woman as hot as Wilma."
Right.
And Fred says, "I should have married someone like you." Freudian slip.
Fred looked up, wiping his chin. What?
He's like, someone that I can regularly beat the shit out of when this audience cheers.
Someone who's already boner height and doesn't have to get on his knees.
I should have married someone who got a lot of cheers from the audience.
I should have married the man that wants to cuck my wife.
I should have married the one character in this entire show that's somehow dumber than I am.
So here's one of my favorite parts. Fred starts talking about, "Oh, if I ever catch this guy, I'm gonna give him one of these and one of these." And Fred, in the act, punches himself square in the face while driving the car.
Yeah, so that causes they have to like Barney has to slam on the brakes, and then like this dinosaur that's like goes past, that's like carrying all these other cars, it just like farts past the intersection, like as it's going past.
So Barney saves them from a fatal accident after Fred punches himself in the face, knocks himself out while driving.
I think I wrote that they said something like they called it like a 7-car accident, which I thought was weird. Like, wouldn't you say 7-car pileup? Right? Is that?
I mean, either way.
Who says 7-car accident?
That's the thing that stood out to you, but it's actually inaccurate in the show.
He can't fucking think straight. All he thinks about is Wilma all day.
Well, what I was confused too is I always thought all the cars in the Flintstones operated by them moving their feet. Like later on in the detective car, or the taxi cab that Fred took, it was him and the taxi driver. But here it looked like they were just driving down the street. So were they actually like, was Barney having to brake with his heels that entire time?
He did brake with his heels.
Okay.
Yeah.
The taxi part's fucked later because the taxi has no wheels and the other cars do. For some reason, when you get in a taxi, you have to run the whole way home.
Right. Well, it's a world where like they have roller skates, but they don't have wheels on fucking cars. I don't understand.
Like Barney's car has wheels. Like it's riding fine. Like you run and then it goes. But for some reason, the fucking taxi. Why would you get in it? You have to carry a big fucking taxi around and you have to
Just run home. Well, that like if you're constantly doing that, why aren't these guys in better shape? Like, why is Fred a slovenly piece of shit when he's essentially carrying a car home every day?
Like, how much food he's eating? The size of the food?
That's true. And Barney's taking double helpings on his way out the door.
All right, so Fred gets to the bar next. Now this is a weird scene.
Yeah.
Fred is super impressed. He's like, he also wishes he married this detective because he's super into this detective. The detective wants a dirty glass. He wants a drink out of a dirty glass. And Fred's like, how tough can you get?
And but then the PI left immediately. Like they don't show him taking any sips of his drink. He walks in, order a drinks, and just turns around and walks right back out without even touching it.
Fred's like, can I talk to you? And the guy says, business or pleasure? So I don't know if this guy is also a fucking gigolo. Like, what does he mean?
Well, they took great lengths to make him sound tough. Like he drinks rocks on the rocks. He drinks out of a dirty glass. The bartender and the guy and Fred both comment how tough he is. And then he walks out in the least intimidating fashion possible. His like whole leg comes up to his face and then back down to the ground. I'm like, what the fuck choice was that?
He had a good line of Fred saying, I'm a married man and I'm miserable. And he goes, it figures. And then he says, some goof's been writing sickening poetry to my wife. And then again he goes, it figures. I saw your wife's jumper. It makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it was me. I want to cuck your wife as well. Me and my morning guy, we want to have these.
You won't believe the size of this boner your wife gave me.
And here's just the ultimate like non-kids joke coming up.
Yeah.
He's like, come to my office. I'll drive you there. And they go out to his car. The privatized car is loaded up with scantily clad women, like 5 women just hanging out of his car.
And he makes some crack about like, these are the fringe benefits of being a PI. Like it doesn't pay well, but there's fringe benefits. I was like, were PIs like notorious ladies men? Like, I don't remember that ever seeing that depicted in media before, of just like women falling all over the PIs.
Well, the bartender says as much because he says, I don't know what them private eyes got, but if they ever bottle it, they'll make a fortune.
That was the stupidest line in the thing, I think. I really wanted to turn it off at that point.
I always heard that your classic private investigator is successful at his private investigation job by driving around with a car full of sluts. That's just women literally hanging out the sides of his car because he's good at stakeouts. I don't know what he's doing. That's so cool that they're all.
Well, we should probably stop doing illegal shit. That's clearly the private eye out there with that car full of women. So.
Oh, there's a clown car full of 81 people over there. That must be a private eye.
Now, the best part is he says that fringe benefits. He's like, the fringe benefits, like implying I'm fucking all these women. And then Fred loves this line. Fred's like, oh, yeah. And he just starts cackling.
Fred, who's upset that his wife might be cheating on him, is super pumped to get in this car full of scantily clad women and ogle them. Fred's a fucking hypocrite.
This is where I really started to actually like actively hate Fred, because like right after this they go to the PI's office and he won't stop talking about like the hot secretary. And I'm like, this is fucking harassment. Like Fred should be in jail or something.
Yeah, there's like a hot secretary that supposedly isn't doing much. Like she's only has a job because she's hot. And the private eye says, well, when she first came to work for me, she was all thumbs. And Fred says, well, she ain't all thumbs now. Wow, 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 wow.
So Fred like does a Borat line, basically.
Wow, wow, wee, wow, Fred in the castle. Yeah, I mean, Fred literally pummeled Barney, his quote unquote best friend, mercilessly for saying that his wife was attractive. But he's in here like doing everything short of like just like his eyes bugging out, the tongue rolling on the floor, looking at the secretary, who also looked just like all the other women. All the women in there look exactly the same. They're all like the same like, triangle cutout with a different colored dress on and different hair. They all did look similar, just palette swapped.
Right. Yeah. Same dumper on all of them.
Unlike all the men, which are one's 9 feet tall.
Right. Men are all grotesque caricatures of people.
Right, yeah.
And the women are just templates.
So Fred shows him the note, and he's like, "Look at this note." Private Eye, another decent line. He's like, "It's a dirty shame," and there's a long pause, "that I never learned to read."
He can't read. Yeah.
Okay. Now in a scene that makes no sense.
No sense.
They're just filling up time. A band of thugs comes in, led by some guy called Knuckles, and they have a beef with the Private Eye, and they just beat the shit out of him.
They're the bad guys. These are probably
never appear again.
Yeah, it was the stupidest thing. And I wrote, P.I. can't read and got his butt kicked. Is he a bigger loser than Fred? Like, I was honestly wondering, like, why is Fred hiring this fucking guy at this point?
It would have made sense if, like, the joke was that these guys beat up the detective and now Fred is back at square one. But the detective continues to help Fred after that. So I don't understand why he had to get his ass kicked in the middle.
Plus, that P.I. can't read, but it still got all those ladies.
Yeah.
There's caveman times. I think a whole lot of them could read.
All right, Barney makes his move here. He goes to see Wilma. He says he's trying to talk her out of it. How can you do this to Fred? But he doesn't need to grab her hand when he does it, which he decides to do.
He doesn't need to, but he needs to get that much harder. So, that's what he does.
He didn't need to have an invisible erection while they were talking either, but he did.
The Private Eye, he's just going to solve this case in 30 minutes. he drives straight to Fred's house, jumps up in the window, takes a photo, and jumps down, and his job's over. That was the third thing. So he takes a picture of them holding hands and brings it back to show it to Fred immediately.
Yeah.
All this takes place over 15 minutes.
And then he goes, then did you guys notice that there's like that sort of vaguely racist line when he gets back? Yes. The PI says something like, "That's the way the egg roll," like my Asian friend says, or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, boy. Not good.
Then when they do get in the wheelless cab, he says, "Where to?" And Fred says, "To put a snake in the grass into orbit." And the guy says, "Okay," and they take off.
I know right where that is. You're talking about Barney? I saw him fucking your wife.
Barney fucking your wife again, Fred? Okay, let's get
to it.
All right, Barney's learning Fred wrote the note.
Yeah.
And then, just then, Barney looks at the watch that's supposed to be Fred's present. It falls under the couch in the way back. So Barney's got to crawl under the couch to get it.
Yeah. There's a lot of... Right here, I wrote, like, that I'm starting to hate Barney's laugh. I think, like, Barney's laugh sucks. Like, just when he laughs, it's very annoying to me.
When he fumbled the watch under the couch, it was okay. We've got enough contrivances. Like, I'm just so like, this is like really gilding Lily now. Of like, now he's gonna look like he's hiding under the couch because he dropped this watch in a room full of what we can only assume is 2 pieces of furniture. This isn't difficult to get the watch
back. So, Fred, in a weird change of heart, right before classic hothead Fred is about to come in and kick Barney's ass again. He's been doing it for years, so it's really going to be nothing new. Decides right before he goes in, you know what? Why do I have to act like a Neanderthal? I'm going to go in all cool and calm. But then walks in and sees Barney's feet hiding under the couch and loses his shit. So pulls Barney out and is ready to just destroy him before Wilma explains that Fred wrote the note.
Right. And
Fun.
I all I wrote here was that Fred's tie looks like shit. She should have given him a new tie instead of a watch.
Well, I think he wears the same tie in everything we've ever seen him in. He's got one set of clothing.
It's a bad tie.
Like a cheetah print dress and a tie.
Now, for some reason, then Wilma is pissed at Fred for thinking she cheated. Like, she just. And Fred
For some
feels
reason.
like an ass. He gets down on his knees to beg for forgiveness. Look, Fred's a shit. But I don't think like this particular thing, it was all that bad that he did. He actually thought his wife was cheating, was upset, and was going to kick the guy's ass who it was. And so I didn't think it was that bad.
Hired a private eye and almost killed his best friend in the span of 20 minutes because he didn't recognize a poem he fucking wrote. And look, if I just in 20 minutes went from, I wonder what that poem is, to hiring a private eye to look in the window of my wife's house, Betsy would be pretty pissed off at me. I'm telling you right now.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean,
But it
this
seems
was
like Wilma's probably used to Fred's shit because
yeah,
she forgives him pretty quick.
Right.
And then says, only you just got to tell me one thing, Fred. Do I still have eyes as black as frying pans?
Yeah, I didn't understand that. Like, why wouldn't she? Do the eye colors change in the Stone Age? Like, what?
Did they have frying pans in the Stone Age?
Did she go buy colored contacts at one point? Or
All right, so Chad, what are we rating this thing on?
Well, one thing I wanted to say with the end credits, maybe this is true in every episode, but I noticed that they sleep in separate beds. And so then I wondered, is this like some kind of loveless, like completely loveless marriage? Like, why does he care that she's cheating on him if he's never getting any anyways? Does they have separate beds?
That could be. Maybe Fred can't fit in a regular sized bed.
He needs the California King all to his own.
Yeah, if you were sharing a bed with fucking this sloth from the Goonies or whatever, you'd want a separate bed too. Fucking damn it.
All right. Well,
Fred's a frightening dude. Think about it, because imagine if you're Barney and your friend is just 6 feet taller than you and just fucking pounding you.
Pounding you for look. I like I'm with you now a little bit, and that I don't blame him for punching him for talking about how he wants to bang his wife. But like, when he's upset that someone might be banging his wife on the way home, and to start slugging Barney over it. That's all.
Also, didn't he beat him up before Barney made those horn dog comments?
Yeah, he punched Barney for talking about like eating food in his house or something.
Can I try your skates? Get the fuck out.
Drop. Now, granted, Barney does get a fucking loser. Like, comes over every day, eats his food, begs to use his roller skates, and then openly pines for his wife. He doesn't sound like the best friend.
They deserve each other, these two.
Exactly.
I think this is the way most of these episodes go. I think like in almost every episode, Fred has a huge hot temper, like punches Barney a bunch, and like then they make up in the end.
Sounds great.
Very funny. Okay, let's just rate this on like a scale of 1 to 10. Dino dumper deuce bombs.
All right, Geiger, what do you think of this episode?
So 10 being I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, because you would enjoy 10 Dino dumper deuce bombs.
That's why I wanted to be clear. Yeah. This, like I said, I'm very confused as to who the target audience of the Flintstones was. I think the target audience of the Flintstones was everybody, because back then there was like 3 TV stations and you just had to watch what was on. Yeah, so it didn't maybe matter the demographics as much, because this is not a kids show. The themes are very adult. The behavior is kind of terrible. There's a racist Chinese joke in there. The men are just big, dumb animals. The animals are big, dumb animals. I didn't think anything. It wasn't funny, but it also wasn't so bad. It was funny. It was just bad. It was just like not.
Yeah.
It left me thinking. Like I know I have seen the Flintstones before, but I can't remember if I liked him as a kid. But I now looking back, I wonder how I ever could have, because there's just nothing unless you just laugh at the physical humor of like, oh, Barney's getting pounded in the face again by Fred. So I will give this a 1 Dino Dumper Deuce Bomb.
Wow, 1 Dino Dumper Deuce
Wasn't good.
Bomb.
I wasn't impressed.
Chad, what do you think?
Okay, so I'm right there with you. This was not only unfunny, it was painfully unfunny. I think I cracked a smile like once. It's got some bad, very, very dated humor in a lot of different ways. There's no likable characters. Like, if there was at least one person to root for, you know, like usually you have like on a TV show, you have a cast of scoundrels or whatever, but there's like at least one person who's like, quote, normal that you would kind of root for. And I don't know who that is here. Maybe like the bartender or something.
Stairs Dinosaur.
Stairs Dinosaur is the one that you like.
Nothing wrong with that Stairs Dinosaur.
Yeah, maybe Mastodon Motors, because like I also like to fart down the street. But but I can imagine there being worse Flintstones episodes than this one. Like I can see how there could be some worse ones. So just for that reason, I'm gonna leave a little wiggle room. I'm gonna give it 2 Dino Dumper Deuce Bombs.
All right. I know I've seen a number of Flintstones. I don't remember any other specific plot lines, but I'd say this is probably like a pretty standard deal. I think for this time, I might give him credit because I think Geiger says there's very few shows on, and probably your whole family watched this thing. And maybe your dad, like your racist dad, got a laugh at like the Chinese joke. And
he's not wrong there, am I right?
Look, your hornball dad got a laugh at those ladies in the car. So, and then your like abusive dad got a laugh at Fred kicking the shit out of people. So your dad probably would have really enjoyed this. I don't know. There was actually, I listed like a few funny lines in there, but overall it's not great. I don't know what I'm rating it against. Like just rating against other cartoons or against everything in the world. I don't know.
Sure. Rated against everything.
I'm gonna go one up from you guys and give this 3 Dino Dumper Deuce Bombs.
You fucking loved it.
So an average of 2 out of 10. It didn't feel very Valentine's-y to me. I know it's supposed to be like a Valentine's special, but it didn't really hit that note. So, Geiger, where can our listeners contact us?
Yeah, if you are Hannah and or Barbara, if you are anyone who remembers the Flintstones and thinks more fondly of it than we do, if you have memories of like cartoons that you watched as a kid, we'd like to hear what they were. You can reach us at youtrydat@gmail.com, hashtag YouTriedThat on Twitter. We have a You Tried Dat group on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. Anywhere you can listen to podcasts, we'll be there. You can't make us go away. People have tried. We won't do it. Let us know what you think of the podcast. Leave us a review. Ask a question from the mailbag. And as always, thanks for listening.
All right. We're going to pick up Candy Month, though, next week again, where we're going to return to the Karma Wars.
Wow.
And then we've got a huge special coming up for the last week of Candy Month. We're going to be dealing with the subject even bigger than Fred Flintstone. So make sure that you come back for that. But that'll do it for this week. We'll be back next time. We'll be trying out 3 brand new snacks.
Diner Dumpo Deuces.
Yep.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the modern Stone Age family. From the town of Bedrock, they're a page right out of history. Someday, maybe Fred will win the fight. Flintstones. Have a yabba dabba do time. A dabba do time. To have